Good afternoon and welcome to our Queer Leadership 101 session for the day, where we are looking at lessons learned from my journey as an LGBTQ plus change maker. My name is Neil Hudson Basing. My pronouns are he, him. I am the Community and Events Director for We Create Space. I'm delighted to bring you this session. Before I welcome our guest speaker, Char Erskine, to the floor, I just want to run through a few things with you. So, just starting with a little bit about myself, I'm the Community Events Director for We Create Space. For those who need a visual description, I have swept back blonde hair, thick Tom Ford glasses, a couple of piercings, face stubble, and I am wearing a black hoodie with the We Create Space logo on here. I am fully branded. I sit across our community and our corporate events, and I'm delighted to be helping bring these conversations to you. This is our Queer Leadership 101 series, our 30-minute bite-sized LinkedIn series where we're chatting all things queer leadership. So, if you're someone who envisions yourself as a queer leader now or in the future, this is for you. And we're going to be looking at empowering you with insights, inspiration, and practical takeaways centered around our core pillars of community building, inclusion, and well-being. Just to give you a little bit more of a feel for what Unlock is all about. So, Unlock is our new queer leadership network, as I said, powered by We Create Space. And what can you expect? Well, firstly, we're a community-led learning platform and network supporting queer leaders in business and in life. And it really feeds into our mission of what we are planning to do, which is create spaces where people can learn, connect, and grow and unlock their full potential. Our vision is a world where all queer leaders, big L, little l, whatever, are seen, celebrated, and equipped with tools to thrive. We're really passionate about building communities where everyone gets that opportunity. Who is our network made up of? Well, these are kind of a few of our profiles of people that this is aimed for. So, future leaders, LGBTQ plus professionals, entrepreneurs, and leadership experts. This is a home for everyone. Great to see your intros coming through right now. Keep the conversations going. We love to see those. What can you expect from Unlock? Well, all of the things that you can see on screen right now. Workshops, sessions like this one, retreats. We have recently launched our retreats, and you can head over on to our events page on our website to check those out. Networking opportunities and resources, and much, much more. So please stay tuned. You can follow us here on LinkedIn at Unlock, and you can also follow us on Instagram at unlockedworld.co. So, without further ado, I would love to welcome Shah onto the screen. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can see just me and Shah. Hey Shah, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Hi.
It's great to see you. Welcome to Queer Leadership 101.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Shah, are you happy to start with an intro to who you are, visual description if you're happy to do one, and then tell us a little bit more about how you show up in the world?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Char, pronouns they, them. I am a black, kind of androgynous person with a short afro that's a bit reddish, needs to be re-dyed soon. And I've got gold glasses on, and I'm wearing a denim shirt as well. Um, so yeah, what I do, so I work professionally in the legal sector, have done for my whole professional career. Currently working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but previously worked in graduate recruitment and development. And then outside of that, I also carry the DEI stuff across to my personal world as well. So like to be a bit of a change maker and activist in just the community as well. And then outside of that, I'm very spiritual as well. So I lean into astrology, tarot a lot for a lot of guidance, self-care, all the rest of it. And I'm also quite active. So I'm a competitive cheerleader at the moment. I love going to the gym, going for walks, hikes, cycling, all that good stuff.
All good stuff and really great examples of your all-roundness around how you show up in the world in so many different forms, in so many different hats. And I want to jump straight in with this title of queer leader and
Mhm.
just ask you, like straight off the bat, do you define yourself as a queer leader? Do you see yourself as one?
Not really. Um, it's one of those things I accept that I am, just because of, I guess, like the passions that I have, the things that I do, because I choose to be kind of out, open, and loud about who I am. And so naturally, that does mean that you just have a level of visibility in kind of the way you navigate the world, and particularly in the workplace, working in the corporate world, in law, it's very not queer. So being someone who's kind of particularly kind of, I think once I got into management and leading on all diversity, equity and inclusion things, I put a lot of myself into that because it just gives like humanity and like a real person to some of the things that I'm doing. It also then allows other people to open up and feel safe about themselves as well. So it's not something I would ever say that I like decided to be, but I there was a point where I recognized that I am, because that's just how people see me and what I'm doing.
Was there a definitive moment that you kind of realized?
Yeah, I think a couple of moments. First actually was when I attended the We Create Space Pride retreat a few years ago, and a lot of the sessions there helped me to kind of come to the realization of like, actually, no, I am doing things that are really impacting people. I want to drive things and I want to be someone who has that positive impact for others. So that's when I kind of accepted like that was the path I was on, was to be a bit of a leader, and take the step forward that others weren't necessarily willing to do. And then I think more recently, having people quite openly share like the impact of the things that I was doing, particularly at work, with me, was when I was like, okay, no, we're definitely like in a good place with being a queer leader, being seen as that, feeling more comfortable with recognizing that how like there are eyes on me with when I'm doing things, or just role modeling things without even necessarily thinking that people are watching, but they are. And so, yeah, probably those couple of moments.
So starting off kind of like a little with a little bit of trepidation around it, but an acceptance. You've used the word loudly, and I hope that you're able to tap into the word proudly as well. I know
Mm.
that that has sometimes come at a bit of a cost to you, as you said, particularly being in a legal environment and being someone that does stand out, you know. What was the steps that you took to decide I am going to be loud and proud about it?
I think, to be honest, like recognizing the impact of the time when I wasn't so loud about things was like quite difficult, and definitely had an impact on me and my well-being. So it was the difference of kind of being a bit more closeted at work, and like, to be honest, like hearing things that were like homophobic, transphobic, and not being able to speak up about it, but nobody knew the impact that had on me or the connection it had to like who I was or anything like that. So to be honest, like kind of hitting rock bottom was the point at which I thought, do you know what, the only thing I've got to lose is myself. And so I'm just not gonna like put myself last or compromise on who I am anymore. So that's also kind of the lesson that I want to want to share with others as well, is like the worst thing that you can lose is yourself. And so that was definitely a point where I was just like someone else's view of me, or someone else's like their phobias, their isms, that's their issue, but I can't let that affect me. So that was definitely the turning point of just being like, well, this is who I am. It's not going to change. So let's just make sure that we know who's going to accept it and who isn't.
Did you notice a shift in how people changed around you when when you made that decisive point? And how did you feel about yourself once those initial steps had started?
Mm. Yeah, there was definitely a shift. I think people actually were just able to get to know me more, and I it was the first time I kind of developed really like strong, genuine friendships with people, particularly at work. Like, you don't necessarily have to make, close friends at work, but I definitely was able just to connect with people on a deeper level. And then I also just became a lot better at my job. I was a lot happier. It then sort of had a trickle effect just with everything, of not feeling so burnt out at the end of the week, just generally kind of just opening up in so many different ways. And to be honest, I think it led to a lot more discovery of who I am. I think, to be honest, it's probably what led to many things, including like being diagnosed neurodivergent, because I just was peeling back the layers of everything I kind of done to fit in. And slowly but surely, like the real me was just able to kind of flourish. So yeah, it was definitely a transformational moment, I guess.
That's it. And I think you know you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to make those friendships at work, right? But when you
Mm.
do, when you are able to be vulnerable, when you're able to be your authentic self, and we're in work a long time, right? To be wearing
Yeah.
so many different masks. And I think definitely that role modeling, that vulnerability naturally taps into leadership in itself.
Mm.
So was what would you say is the a recognizable point that people can start defining themselves as queer leaders as well? Because obviously you felt that hesitation around the title. How can other people start to kind of maybe tap into that for themselves?
I think potentially kind of like recognizing moments where you're speaking up or saying something new and different that maybe others aren't necessarily. I think that's a point at which you start to be noticed by others as someone who's kind of leading change, as someone who's advocating for others, as someone who's just a champion for themselves as well. So it's that kind of moment of yeah, just feeling like you've got a voice and you're able to use it. Even if that's a bit scary to you, I think to other people, they will look up to you and might even be inspired to start doing it themselves. So that's probably a key, I think. If there's anything you feel like you might have you might be holding back on saying something. I think the moment where you start to say those things is when you start to become a leader, to be honest.
Oh, that's so powerful because there's all kinds of elements there around bravery and advocacy, but also kind of creativity and innovation as well.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and not holding yourself back because I think sometimes we are further along than we may think we are as well.
Mm. Yes, yeah, I definitely think so. And I think I found that being like quite just like an honest and kind of straightforward person, sometimes I would say things that I think, well, anyone will just say that because it's just sort of, just advocating for everyone or just for equal rights or anything like that. And then I'd look back on it and think, oh, actually, like nobody seemed
Yeah.
quite on board or everyone was a bit taken aback that I dared to say something. But I just thought, well, surely everyone would agree or, that sort of thing. So,
That's it. That's it. Don't, don't hold back. I think that I think if you really, really feel it and you believe it, say it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
With that in mind, I'd love to know how would you describe your leadership style in 3 words, and how did you suss out what your style was?
Um, so I think approachable is one. Being collaborative because I don't like to be sort of seen as like the top of like a hierarchy. I prefer to just be sort of in partnership with everyone. And I like to describe myself as like a coach as a leader. So I'm really like invested in developing other people and thinking about how they can become their own sort of leaders in their own right and not just following what I do, but actually like finding their own path. So yeah, I think it's evolved over time. Some of it's come from just managing people at work, or working with like charities and like pride organizations outside of work, and just realizing that I love that kind of collaborative approach of getting lots of ideas, and just listening to everyone and also being able to sort of like contribute to that as well. And I think approachability has been quite a key one of just recognizing those moments where people would seek me out to share something, whether it's sort of like a negative experience or wanting advice, and just recognizing that being approachable and sort of maybe because they've seen that vulnerability, that I'm just open about things that they feel they can then also connect with me on that level. So I think that's probably been like one of the key things that sets me apart from other leaders who can be a bit like a bit unapproachable and like, oh, they're over there in like, sort of a glass house or something. So yeah, those three.
Are there ever times where you have to rein some of that in? Because I know for myself, I sometimes throw myself in a little bit too hard, and then
Mm.
overwhelm and burnout becomes quite real. And
Mm.
role modeling is really key here, right?
Yeah,
Particularly as neurodivergent people.
yeah, yeah. I think probably like the approachability part, which sounds, I'd hate to say like that's sort of the one I have to be quite wary of, but
Yeah.
I'm such an empath and I just absorb other people's energy. So I do recognize that at times when people will sort of be vulnerable themselves or seek me out to sort of talk about things or want to have a catch up or anything like that, I know that I need to be in the right place, like have enough spoons to kind of have that conversation as well. So that's probably one that I think, and it's probably it's the one that makes me feel most guilty sometimes when I have to draw back from people. But at the same time, I just need to be like the strongest that I can be to support others. And so that's probably one that I think is I'm very wary of. And then also in the corporate environment, for some people, that's just not something that's comfortable for them. I'm probably, well, definitely too much for some people because I'm very open about things, about my ADHD, about when I'm having a down day because I deal with anxiety and depression. And some people think, oh, keep that to yourself. But for some people, that is an open door to connect. So I'm conscious of that, depending on what environment I'm in, that
Yeah.
sort of approachable sort of aspect of me can have to shift sometimes.
I think that's so important because we don't get to leave our mental health, our well-being, our
Mm.
identities at the door, do we? Regardless
Mm.
of what position you're in, it's just not possible all the time, particularly
Mm.
in 2025 when we're facing quite a harsh and anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric in society.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's something particularly I think going into the workplace in when I'm at sort of, at the LGBT centre or with other sort of queer groups, we're all very conscious of the impacts this stuff is having on us. And you can kind of find that like escape and that sometimes it's quite therapeutic to just be with each other. But when you're in at work, it's definitely not overall like a very queer environment. We have our network, which is great for that community, but in general, not everyone passes you on the corridor and they understand
Mm.
the impact of what you've seen on your Instagram that morning or on the news or that sort of thing. So it definitely is something to consider, like how you can actually sort of take care of yourself while recognizing that others just don't see that impact on you.
Yeah. Has there been a moment where you've had to educate someone on that impact?
Um, I think there definitely has been with um, a lot of the news around, I think towards the end of last year, around sort of violence against the
Mm.
community was quite a big one. I knew people personally who was suddenly seeing like a real uptick in thinking about how they navigate the world with their partners and actually being like approached and like in sort of dangerous situations, just in places where they'd always been. So recognizing the impact of that, I think some people didn't kind of see it because there's just other stuff going on in the world. And I thought, well, actually, like, can you just recognize our community here when we're not feeling great? And then even like now, I think there's probably like an opportunity I could educate people. I just mentioned to you that I'm going to Florida at the end of this week. And I'm honestly not ecstatic about it at all. So it's great opportunity. I'm going out for the cheerleading world championships. But the fact of the matter is like when the results of the election were announced in November in our team group chat, I was just like, I don't want to go. And, getting closer and closer to this date of going to Florida, I think I am so anxious about that. And I probably haven't, educated like my program directors that much about the fact that I do not feel wonderful having to go to
Yeah.
Florida at the end of this week. So, yeah, a couple of things where I have sort of educated and maybe right now I could do a better job of educating people.
I mean, hey, self-preservation is important, right? But also, it can be quite scary to initiate those challenging or courageous conversations, as we call them
Mm.
within We Create Space. So, yeah, it's scary, but it sounds, it sounds like you are grabbing those opportunities, but just within your limits as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like, for within the team, like we're supporting each other, that sort of thing. And there's nothing that we can change about it. But
Yeah,
I think that's such a great point you make of just doing like what you can do and
yeah.
also what you have the energy to do as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah. And also it's as a when you embrace community, you come to realize that it's a team effort, right? I
yeah.
think I was chatting to Lady Phil at one point and she was saying how, you might be holding in the baton 1 minute, but know when to
Mhm.
pass it on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and rely on
absolutely.
other people. You touched on support there.
Mm.
And I'd love to know, has there been a moment where you've had to approach someone and ask for help or support, either with like kind of something around mentorship or a difficult situation?
I am not great at asking for help, to be honest. But I think there's definitely points where I've had people to lean on, who have been quite instrumental in kind of supporting me and providing guidance or just ideas on how to navigate certain challenges. So actually my previous manager, who is so much more than just a manager, is like a true friend, to me still, was somebody who informally was definitely like a great mentor to me in sort of being in that particular organization because he'd been there for so long, and then also just in general was a very like safe space for me, um when it came to being in the corporate environment, being also a gay man, so part of the community, so knowing that he just understood what I was kind of dealing with at times, and that was definitely a very informal way of me getting support that didn't feel like I was kind of, yeah, having to like ask for help while in crisis or anything. But I definitely have seen, like, for other people, like the real positive of having mentors, but I'm still quite hesitant of officially having a mentor myself, to be honest.
That's fair, and I hear you. It can be really when you, particularly when you are seen as someone who's really capable and hyper independent, it can actually be
Yeah.
quite hard to ask for help. It's definitely a work in progress for me too. Um, I just want to give our audience a nudge for your questions. If you have any questions for Sharp, please do share them. We would absolutely love to answer them. Um, Quick question from me: what are you most proud of or passionate about when it comes to your work?
I think for both, like being proud and passionate about, it's just really the impact on everyone. And obviously that is, really focused on like those people from underrepresented groups, the LGBTQ plus community, people from different ethnic backgrounds. I'm, yeah, passionate about doing work that really, really serves them with what they need, and not sort of like the kind of tick boxy or just, flag waving type of DI work that, rightfully so, people are just, revolting against at the moment. But that's also probably something I'm really proud of as well, is those moments where people have said very openly that the work I've done has had an impact. It's made them feel more confident. It's made them feel seen. It's like validated how they felt. So I think, yeah, that is the key, is like the real impact on people. And that's what really drives me to continue doing it, even though it can be tough at times.
For sure, definitely. And that giving back doesn't sometimes come without sacrifice.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All part of queer leadership, but absolutely fundamental to creating communities where people can thrive. We've asked you to choose three practical takeaways for our audience under the pillars of inclusion, well-being, and leadership. Are you happy to talk through those for us?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, the first one is accessibility, and I think there's so much that can be done, that is kind of ignored when it comes to making things accessible, whether it's because of finances, because of disability, because of neurodiversity, location, all those sorts of things. And I guess the lesson is just that, like, nobody is disadvantaged if you make something more accessible. So that's quite key, I think, because so many people within the queer community are like doubly minoritized by also being disabled or neurodivergent, or not have, great access to financial resources. So that's the first one. I think self-awareness is a huge one. We've spoken a lot about, well-being, taking care of yourself. So I think a lot of what we do within the community is that we go through like a journey of figuring out who we are in this sort of environment where, we have to like get rid of all the clutter of like the cis heteronormativity, and then figure out who you are, but also then just go a bit deeper into knowing like what's right for you, what's right for your energy. Are you in the right space to do XYZ at certain times? Have you got rid of the expectations of what you're going to do by a certain age? All that sort of stuff I think is quite key, because it's just still ingrained within us sometimes, and we don't necessarily notice until we take the time to sort of interrogate those things a bit deeper. And then authenticity was the last one. I think there is like so much power in being open and vulnerable and like standing true to your values, which when you first do it can be quite scary, but it's also like one of the most freeing things that you can do is just to be authentic and live like in your true self. So they're the three that I would ask everyone to take away from today.
Thank you so much, and we'll share with you our top 10 considerations under each of those under our community under our queer leadership article. Those final two, self-awareness and the authenticity, they really go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Particularly on the self-awareness, once you get rid of those things that we impose on each other and just lean into just being, the
mm,
authenticity will come.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we probably, when we spoke about goals before, it's the same sort of thing, like just living sometimes in the moment and just being can be like what you need rather than thinking about like conforming to what someone else or a certain like structure in society kind of says. It's so, so important.
Absolutely. I think it's that difference between queer leader with a capital L versus queer
Mm,
leader with a little L, because we
yeah.
do we impose these goals and objectives. We're going to be in this, we're going to be directors, we're going to achieve this, but actually we don't really leave much time. And yeah, I know I loved it when we've spoken about this aside from this conversation before about leaving space for your passion and your heart and
Mm.
flexibility around shifting as a person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like really like enjoying the journey, I think is quite key.
Yeah, because leadership is a journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned before, like there'll be times where you will be like front and center, and there's other times where your job and your responsibility as a leader is actually to push other people in front of you and give them that platform as well. So it's all part of that sort of give and take, yeah, the
Yeah.
up and down.
And a balancing act as well when you think
Mm,
about that front and center and then the important work that goes on behind it and
yeah,
knowing when to not take front and center as a
yes,
leader.
yeah, absolutely.
We've just got a comment from Raven saying no questions, but loving everything you're saying. Thank you,
Oh,
Shah.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Raven. Lovely for you to be here. With that journey in mind, Shah, I'd love to ask, what lessons have you learned along the way to bring us to a close that you'd like to share as words of encouragement or wisdom for today's attendees?
Yeah, so probably similar to something I've already said. So I think um you can be like a source of guidance for people when you don't even realize it. And sometimes you might know that, all eyes are on you for whatever reason, but other times you don't recognize that. And it's only after that you kind of see the impact. So, I've said before, living out loud, being authentic, being vulnerable, and standing in your truth, I think is the biggest thing that I would advocate for anyone listening to do because it just releases like a weight from your shoulders. And with that, I think it can feel scary to do that. But even if it does feel really scary to you, it looks brave to somebody else. And I think that is what can be quite inspiring to others who might stick that label on you of queer leader because of what they see.
Absolutely. I attended a talk recently that talked about being 10% braver. If you can just encourage yourself to just be 10% braver, then everything that you've just said will flow from it and become that bit easier.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Shah, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn, yeah, Char Erskine on LinkedIn, also on Instagram, char.ersk. Yeah, they're probably the best two.
Fantastic. I have one question from you from the audience I'd love to throw in there if you're happy. It's quite a big one, but
Oh,
we'll get it in.
yeah.
Aaron asks, do you ever feel pulled in different directions when it comes to leadership? In the past, I've found myself navigating roles or spaces within Black, queer, and broader diversity initiatives, and with limited time and energy, I've sometimes felt I had to choose where to show up. Have you experienced that tension and how do you approach it? Great question, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think I could definitely understand that feeling that you referenced because there was just so much under the umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I think the key for navigating that for me has just been to like raise the alarm of like I am all of these things all at once. Like I cannot just be black in one space and just be queer in another space and all the rest of it. It's we are whole. And so if I need to bring intersectionality into that to kind of, attack both things at once and recognize people as whole humans, I think that could be the key. But yeah, absolutely. If I was ever in a black space and they said, leave your queerness at the door, I'd say, okay, moving on, because that's not possible.
Yeah,
And vice versa. We are
yeah,
whole, so people need to see it as that.
yeah. Not leaving, I'm out the door with it kind of thing,
Yeah,
because you just can't. You can't.
exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question, Aaron. Shar, thank you so much for being the queer leader that you are. Thanks for saying
Thank
yes
you.
to this and for showing up the way you do.
Thank you. Always a joy.
Thank you so much. Please do share your feedback if you have if you've enjoyed this, and if you haven't actually, let us know what you thought. We would love to hear it. All feedback is valuable. Please take a moment to scan the QR code. We will send it out in an email afterwards. Our next Quid Leadership 101 will take place on the 20th of May. We'll inform you of all upcoming events. Do check them out on the website. But yes, we would love to see you at a future event. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shah, see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.